If you're ever driving down I-76 late at night and some woman on the side of the road offers you some strange, don't take it. It's probably a bad idea. I'm Aidan Mattis, and welcome to the Lore Lodge. For about as long as you've had automobiles and highways for them to drive on in the United States, there have been tales of a woman in white who will haunt usually main roads, but ones that are not state highways or interstates. So, for example, Route 23, here where we live. You might see the woman in white along there, but who is she? Well, that's kind of exactly it. There is no singular woman in white. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of different instances of this story that pop up all over the United States, and, interestingly, all over the world, and way further back than you might think. Because you see, the woman in white is something of a vengeful spirit, so to speak. This is usually a woman who, in life, was some form of... Usually they killed their kids, for some reason or another, be it out of jealousy, or rage, or just plain madness. But often what you'll get is a woman who lurks on the side of the road. There's very often something to do with dead children. She will get into your car, and then you are never seen again for some reason. This could be that you are told to drive off of a bridge or into a ditch, or the brake lines go. And the point of the matter is, these stories happen all over the place. And it's one of those things where it's a general phenomenon, not really any particular individual or spirit tied to any one person. So, for example, in the first episode of the TV show Supernatural, we get a woman in white. That is the main antagonist of the episode. And what she does is lure men back to her house and then, kill them. In that specific one, it is a young woman in a white dress who will offer herself to men if they will drive her home, and if they are unfaithful, she only appears to men who have girlfriends. If they're unfaithful, by letting her into the car, she will ensure that they do not see the end of the night. Now, Supernatural has an entire character backstory for this, and it's one specific person, and so on and so forth. But that's more for narrative purposes. So what you really have is this gets reported on back roads in Pennsylvania and on desert highways in Nevada. And then you have other versions of the story, such as La Llorona, who is a Hispanic in origin story of a woman who... there's various versions. In some versions, she drowned her children in the river. In other versions, her children drowned in a river. But she'll appear near bodies of water and cry out for help. She's always wearing white. She'll cry out for help. And then when children go to the water side, they'll be drowned. Is this possibly just a cautionary tale that mothers would tell their children to get them to avoid going into rivers? Sure, that's possible. But like most folk legends, it probably does go back to something. There probably was a young woman who drowned her children. And then that folktale gets passed around until eventually you get this legend of something like La Llorona. Or, for example, the Tlingit people and the stories that are told in the area of that little southern spear that goes into Canada, of Alaska, that they have a story of their own sort of wailing woman. And they have the Kushtaka, which will sometimes mimic a wailing woman. In Ireland, you've got the Banshee, which again mimics a wailing woman. There are all of these stories around the world of young women in white wailing for the purpose of either bringing news and being a harbinger that someone's about to die, or that they're doing the killing themselves. But you might be asking at this point, Aidan, you've said woman in white so many times. Why do you keep emphasizing that? Well, it's because of what the symbolism of the color white means. Pretty much throughout the world, white is a symbol of purity. We have women across the world get married in white dresses. We have priests wear white. Basically, if you're trying to symbolize that something is clean, it's usually white. So, what does white symbolize here? Well, if white's supposed to be purity, then what is it? Because clearly a spirit that is killing people is not pure. So what's going on? Is the white a symbol that whatever they're doing is purifying the world by getting rid of these bad actors? It's possible. Or is it that it's a trick? Are we looking at a demonic presence that is showing up and taking the form of somebody so that it can trick somebody? It's hard to say, because this is not one legend. This is hundreds, dozens, all over the place in any one area. So, for each woman in white, there's usually a different local backstory. It's got to be something psychological for us that we picture this specific kind of spirit. And that's why when it's something this widespread, that's where I go back and I think it's fascinating to look at, where does this pop up in other cultures? Because it certainly does. And those are the kinds of stories that are my favorite to research, because what you always end up with is like, yeah, we must have had something somewhere way back that scared the hell out of us, and now it sticks in our memory. It's kind of part of our genetics that we will associate negative feelings, eerie occurrences with various specific instincts. And that seems to be where things like the woman in white, even perhaps the Wendigo and other things that we talk about on this channel, where they may come from. So, I have to ask, because again, this is something that's so widespread. In the comments, let us know, do you have a woman in white where you live? Is there a story of somebody who appears on the roadways? If you've got something like this, a local legend, we would love to hear about it in the comments. So go ahead and toss it down there. And as always, if you like what we're doing here at the Lore Lodge, you can subscribe to us on Patreon. That's a huge help. You can also subscribe to us directly on YouTube. You can become a member. It gives you a few perks. They're not quite as nice as the Patreon perks, if I'm being honest. But it is easy and it's there. Or if you just want to show your support, make sure to hit that like button, hit subscribe, click that notification bell, watch our videos, and if you feel like it, just share them with a friend, share the joy, share the love, and share the, 30-second ad space that gets us a few cents every time it plays. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, I'm Aidan Mattis, and thanks for stopping by the Lore Lodge.